Right, well, yesterday, or in fact this entire week, has been a very emotional stage in Oscar Pistorius' murder trial. All sorts of new facts coming out in the most recent happenings there. Kat is going to bring us the latest.
That's right, Graham. Day 9 of the Oscar Pistorius murder trial in the North Gauteng High Court in Pretoria saw forensic expert Colonel Johannes Vermeulen back in the witness stand, followed by former police station commander Colonel Gillian van Rensburg, who was the first policeman to arrive at the Pistorius home after the shooting. But the processing of the evidence and the competence of the South African Police Services Forensic Department continued to come under close scrutiny by Pistorius' lawyer, advocate Barry Rue. Now, with us on the line this morning is Moki, journalist at The Star, to summarize the day's events for us. Thank you very much once again for taking our call. We begin, of course, with what happened yesterday with Rue and Rue's grilling of the South African Police Services Forensic Department. It continued, and I think one of just take us through some of the details of what he questioned the witnesses on.
Good morning, Katleho. We had Colonel van Meulen again on the stand yesterday, the cross-examination. Basically what he said is that he was asked to look at the marks on the bed and the marks on the door. But the key question is, as a forensic expert, why would you only focus on one set of evidence and not focus on other issues like the prosthetic leg that was used to kick the door? So basically, the issue of innocent until proven guilty, that's what at issue here, because it means they didn't go into this thing looking at all possibilities. They focused, they were narrow-minded and focused only on what the state evidence was. But at the same time, I think we should guard against being too harsh on the police, because we still have other witnesses, we still have other forensic experts that would come. One would hope that those who are still going to be called to come and give evidence would go onto the prosthetic leg and what tests were done on it. Otherwise, it paints a very bad picture about the South African Police Services Forensic Department.
This is true, but of course Barry Rue was making no kind of effort to try and not disqualify the qualifications of some of the forensic investigators, of course, and the oversights that he had seen, or that he thinks he had seen in terms of the investigation. But mixed up on the line was Police Station Commander Colonel Gillian van Rensburg, and he was the first person, as we said, the first policeman to arrive at the Pistorius' Silverwoods estate. Now, take us through his testimony, because that was also quite a telling one.
He arrived, he was the first police officer to arrive, and when he got there, Pistorius was emotional and crying, and he says, he basically took us through the scene, like the trail of blood that he followed, but what might come out during the cross-examination is whether he followed due processes. Remember with Hilton Botha, the police officer that he was with, he admitted last year that he wasn't wearing protective gear.
Yes.
So far, we don't know if Van Rensburg also wore protective gear or not. So the contamination of the scene so far, that's an issue that the defense might be looking into. But what happened yesterday, he spoke about blood spatters all over the house, on the walls, on the floor, on the furniture, and he ended up by the bedroom where he showed there were 2 cell phones and on the floor, and they initially overlooked one of the cell phones, a white cell phone. So we don't know how that happened, but he said he only got to see that white cell phone when it was pointed out by the police photographer.
Yeah. Now, one of the big talking points has been Oscar's reaction to each of the witnesses' testimonies, and I think, to that instance, Twitter and Facebook has added a great deal. I mean, somebody actually tweeted the other day that though the court or people have been reporting on Oscar maybe feeling ill in court and looking sad, nobody actually tweeted the picture of him smiling in court, and there was a picture that was shown there. But how did you see Oscar reacting to the images that were shown yesterday, especially the blood trail leading up to the stairs on the landing?
Well, whether he killed River deliberately or not, I don't think he would go to court smiling, because if you are innocent, obviously you would, you would be you would project the emotions that he's been projecting, like retching in court, crying and weeping. And if he's not innocent also, he wouldn't want to paint a picture of somebody who's having fun, who's not remorseful, because that will count against him. Yesterday, the state, because they had to sort out pictures before before the police officer testified on the scene, or like about the crime scene. So they had to sort out and take out all the hectic pictures, the sensitive pictures.
Yes.
So as they were doing that during the break, Pistorius saw one of the pictures of River Steenkamp slumped over the toilet cubicle. He started retching and he was quite angry, and then we saw him talking to his lawyers, and you could see that he was really upset about the whole thing. Yeah. He cried. His sister Amy went over to comfort him, giving him tissues, and otherwise, the entire day yesterday he was composed as compared to the other days, because when the radiologist testified about arriving at the scene and finding River lying on the floor, blood all over, gunshot wound on the head and stuff, Pistorius just fallen apart. He had fallen apart. He cried. At some point, the case had to be adjourned to allow him to compose himself. But yesterday, he was generally okay.
Yeah. Umpi, thank you very much once again for taking our call and for getting us up to date with the proceedings.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Umpi Moki, journalist at The Star, giving us a summary of Day 9 of the Oscar Pistorius murder trial, which is expected to continue until the 4th of April. A member of the prosecuting team said this on Thursday. Now, the court would be in recess between the 7th of April and the 11th of April, after which the heads of argument will be submitted to Judge Thokozile Masipa, and her two assessors will then consider the verdict. But until then, there is still a great deal more to be uncovered as we discover the truth about what happened on the morning of February the 14th last year.